Hi everyone! Today's tutorial is beginner friendly, but I wouldn't recommend it for absolute beginners. I wouldn't start with a color changing project right away, but I will take you through step by step how to do this. The only prior knowledge that you need is how to create a slip knot, how to chain, and how to single crochet. I'm using these granny squares for a patchwork cardigan that I'm making, so my granny squares are measuring to be 4 by 4 inches. But you can make these whatever size you would like. And then you can use this gingham pattern for any project. You can make like a purse or something. It would be really cute with this design. Before you begin, you want to decide what size you want your squares inside of your project to be. So my squares are 3 stitches wide and 3 rows tall. Once you decide what size you want your squares inside to be, then you need to decide how many squares you want going across your project. So depending on what size you want your squares to be and how many squares you want, that is what is going to decide your starting chain length. For my squares, I have 5 squares across. And since they are 3 stitches wide, that means that my starting chain is 15, but then I also add 1 for the turning chain, so we will start with a chain of 16. So it doesn't matter what color you start with, but I usually, when I'm working on this pattern, I kind of decide what I want my main color to be, and that is the color that I start with. And then at the end, that's the color that I end up making a border with. Before we begin, I do want to say that there is a few different ways that you can color change in crochet. I'm going to be showing you the newer way. It's really not that different from the original color change method. Some people feel like it has an extra step, but for me personally, I enjoy this color change method a lot more. I think it just works better for my brain. If you all would like to see a video where I show the original color change method, just let me know in the comments. For this color changing project, normally for like a tapestry or something, you might use bobbins or something to organize your yarn. I have my 2 additional cakes right here, and then I have my main color that is on my yarn genie. And then after each row, I untangle them. To begin, take the main color that you want to use and create a slip knot. My granny square is going to be 15 stitches across, so I'm going to chain 16. We are going to be skipping the first chain because this is our turning chain, and we're going to be working into the second chain from the hook. If you turn your chain around, we're going to be working into this back here. This is called the back bump. So all the way down the chain, we're going to be working into the back bump. I'm going to grab the second color that I'm going to be using on this row, and I'm going to be securing it into the first few stitches because I'm going to be carrying my yarn throughout this whole project. So the project's going to be a little bit thicker because of having that yarn being carried through the entire thing. I want my first 3 stitches to have that same thickness as the rest of the project. Otherwise, it will look a little bit strange if you leave it out. We're going to be working into the second chain from the hook, and we're going to be working into the back bump. So insert your hook into the back bump, and then you can just put your yarn for your second color over your hook like this. And then we're going to create a single crochet. And by the way, the single crochets that I'm using is yarn under and yarn over. You can use any single crochet method you would like. So I'm going to yarn under and pull up a loop. And then I'm going to yarn over and pull through. And that's how I'm doing my single crochets. But again, you can do it any way you'd like. So just make sure that you have a decent amount of a tail hanging through here. I'm going to just pull on that a little bit just to make mine a little bit longer so we can secure it. And I'm just going to make 2 more stitches, and I'm going to continue to work with this second color coming over my hook as well. Okay, so we've made our 3 stitches for our first color. Now we want to switch to our second color. So just drop your yarn. And the way that you color change in this method is you lift up your hook, and it doesn't matter how high you make this loop. And then we're going to be inserting into these 2 vertical bars that are in the front here. So just insert your hook right through those, right there. Grab your next color and just pull it through those 2 loops. Now you're going to have this loop sitting here, and it's up to you whenever you want to remove the loop. You can remove the loop now, or you can remove the loop later. I'm just going to remove it later, so I'm just going to leave it here for now, and then I'll show you how to do that. Insert into the next back bump, and this time we want to carry the main color. So you're going to put the main color over your hook, just like we did with the white. And then just create a single crochet. And we're just going to continue to do that same thing, making sure that we're carrying the main color with us. And the reason why we're carrying the color is because we can pick it up really easily, like we just did with the white, when we go to switch. There's lots of different methods for how to carry your yarn as well, but this is the one that I prefer for this pattern because you're changing color really often. Now that we've created our 3 single crochets with the second color, we're gonna pull on the yarn of the main color for the loop that we left back here. And a good way to do this too is to turn your work. You see this bump right here? We're gonna pull on this yarn, and you wanna pull tight enough that that bump isn't there. And there we go, now we have a really clean color change. Now we're gonna change back to our main color, so lift the hook up, insert into the 2 vertical bars, switch to your main color, and pull it through. And again, if you'd like, you can get rid of the loop right now. I'll just show you how that looks. So I'm just gonna pull it down, and there we go, it's out of the way. And we're gonna do the same thing, continue to carry the other color, and then we're going to make our single crochets with our main color. I always check the back just to make sure nothing is bundled up. If it is, you can pull on this to get rid of that. Okay, let's switch to our second color. So pick up your hook, insert through the 2 vertical bars, grab your second color, and pull it through. Just remember that you're always carrying a color with you through this whole thing. Okay, now pull on the main color, and then look at the back, make sure there's no bump, and then we can switch back. Pull through your main color, and then create your last 3 stitches of this row. And then make sure you pull your secondary color through. Okay, we've completed our first row. After I complete a row, I personally like to detangle my yarn. So I'm just taking my extra ball and I'm just putting it around this just to detangle it. We are going to be staying with this same color pattern for 3 rows in total because our squares are 3 stitches wide and they are 3 stitches tall. So we're going to be continuing the same color for another 2 rows here. At the end of each row, you just want to chain 1 and turn your work. So now we are going to be working on the back of the square. This is the front of the square. This is called the right side. So this will be the cleaner side. Now the way that we're making these squares It will look good on both sides, but I do prefer to have a side that I consider to be my right side and a side that's the wrong side where I'll have like some of the colors weaved in. You can kind of see them here. So now that we're working on the wrong side, it's going to be a little bit different than when we work on the right side. I think the right side is a lot easier, and the wrong side, especially if this is your first time color changing, it is a little bit awkward. It'll take some getting used to, but it'll be fine. Okay, this is going to be the hardest part here, is we want to float up this white with our first stitch here. So ignore the chain 1 because we're going to be working into the first stitch here. And just kind of move your yarn so it's kind of wrapping around in front of the stitch like this. And then you're going to take your hook and you're going to make sure that you grab that second color. And then just insert into the first stitch and create your first single crochet. If this is loose at all, make sure you pull on it a little bit. Now we're going to continue to carry our yarn just like we did in the first row, but we're not going to be carrying it over here because that would put it on the right side. So we want to keep it back here on the wrong side. So the way that I like to do that is I like to just continue to place the yarn right behind my stitches. That way, when I go to insert into the next stitch, I have my yarn right here that I'm carrying. So just keep your yarn back there like that. I even kind of hold it back here just to secure it more. Now we're going to change our color. So go ahead and lift up your hook, insert into those vertical bars. But before I grab my next color, since we're working on the wrong side, I want to grab the color that I was just working with. I'm going to swing it back here. Just like this, just kind of swing it around, and then I'm going to grab my next color. That way this yarn stays back here. Now I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to float this color behind the stitches like this, and then just insert my hook and continue to make my single crochets. Okay, now this part's really important. Make sure you turn your work around before you pull out your loop. And if you can see this right here, you see how that tightened? You want to make sure that looks like your other stitches. Make sure you don't leave a lump there. Now it's time to change colors again. So again, take the color you were working on, push it back, grab your color that you're switching to. I forgot to lift up my loop, but you can always do it in that order. That's totally fine. And now bring the color through. And then again, just work over this color. Okay, now turn your work around. Pull that color through and make sure there's no lump. Let's switch our color again. Insert your hook. Move your yarn right back here, grab the color you're switching to, and pull it through. Okay, now let's pull our loop out, just like that. Now we'll switch to our previous color. So don't forget, grab your color you were working with and put it behind. Grab your new color and pull it through. Okay, let's pull our last loop. There we go. Now I'm just going to untangle this yarn real quick. We need to do one more row of this color pattern. So you are just going to chain one. And now we're going to turn our work. We are working on the right side again, so we want to float our yarn behind our work. So just take this color and slide it up behind this stitch here, your first stitch. Ignore the chain 1. And then insert your hook with the yarn over it. And create your first stitch. And then if this is really sticking out, you can just kind of tighten it. So keep your yarn behind you. Now we're going to color change. And now let's pull our loop, and I turn it around and make sure that there's no lumps back here. Okay, we've just completed our first color. Now on the next row, we are going to be changing our color pattern. So since I am done with the white, because I'm basically always carrying the main color with me the whole time, but the white and the darker purple, I'm going to be cutting off when I'm done with them. So cut off your second color. Just leave a semi-long tail that you can weave in later. The next row for me is going to be this lighter purple and a darker purple. So I want my lighter purple to be here above the white because I don't want to put it above the same spot. Before I go to the next row, I need to switch to the darker purple then because darker purple is going to be the color right here. And we're just going to do the same thing. Just lift up your hook, insert into these vertical bars, and pull through your new color. And you can adjust this tail so that you have a long enough tail that you can weave in. To make it a little bit easier, I get rid of the loop immediately here. So just pull it down. And then we're going to chain 1 with the new color, and we're going to turn our work. Now, this is probably one of the hardest color changes in this pattern. So you'll have to do this one twice, I believe. But we're going to be working on the wrong side, so it just makes it a little bit trickier. We're going to completely ignore the white piece. We're going to weave that in later. Remember that we want to carry up our main color because we always want our main color to be with us. I personally am also going to be carrying this tail with me for a little bit. That way I can weave it in because I like to weave in stuff as much as I can in the project instead of later. If it ends up being way too difficult for you, it's no big deal, just leave that color out, but make sure you at least carry your main color with you. Well, let me show you, this is a little bit tricky to do, but I'm going to grab the tail here. And also, if you get a little loose, you can tighten this by pulling the tail. And then I'm grabbing my main color and I'm floating it up. And I'm trying to put these behind the first stitch here. So take your hook and kind of just like wrap these around. Just kind of put them on top of your hook. And you can really just kind of hold them here and then look for your first stitch and create your single crochet. And make sure you bring it out through all of these. And there you go. And then again, if this is a little loose at all on the side, you can pull the yarn tails just to tighten it up. So I'm going to keep these 2 tails with me for a little bit. So I'm just going to keep them behind my project, just like I did on the other side. And then again, if you find that to be too difficult, Just don't worry about it. You can just weave this tail in later. There we go. Now I'm going to be changing my color. So I'm going to pull up my loop, insert into the bars, and then I'm going to be pulling the dark purple back like this, and then I'm grabbing my main color, just like we did before. So I've got these two sitting right here, and then I'm going to pull my next color through. And now we're working with the main color. Okay, so just like before, go ahead and pull the loop out. And then switch your color. Push your yarn back. Pull the main color through. If you carried your tail like I did, I like to drop it off now before I go to do my last stitches. All I'm doing is just leaving this tail here, so I'm just going to pull through the last color like you usually do, but then I'm going to leave the tail here and I'm just going to work with the main color in the back. Okay, so now we just chain one, turn our work, and just like before, we're going to keep this main color behind, just like that. So insert into your first stitch, keep this color behind, and then tighten it if it's loose at all over here. Okay, we've completed our second row of this color, so now we need to do one more. So just chain one. And then we're going to float up the color behind us because now we're working with the wrong side facing us. You're just going to continue doing the same thing, keeping your yarn behind your work. We've now completed our next pattern, so we are going to go ahead and cut this color off because we're going to be switching back to the first color that we started with. I'm going to show you how to do the last color change because then you'll have seen how to do all the color changes in this pattern. Go ahead and lift up your hook. This color change is a little bit easier because we're going to be switching to the main color first. And we already have the main color attached. So just insert your hook. And bring the main color through. And now you can get rid of this loop. You're going to chain one. And you're going to turn your work. I'm just going to carry this purple one with me for just these 3 stitches because I think it's easier than to connect the white right now, and then we'll start to kind of weave in this end a little bit. So keep that tail behind your stitches. insert into the first stitch and create your first single crochet. So now I'm just going to let this tail just kind of hang here for a moment, and then we're going to lift up. Let's pull our new color through. Adjust your tail if you need to by just pulling on it. Now, I'm personally going to work over all 3 of these tails just so I can weave in this dark purple tail. But again, if that is too complicated or anything, just make sure at the very least that you are carrying your main color with you. These 2 colors can just go to the side if it's too frustrating and difficult to work into these stitches. Otherwise, you can weave them into the project now by just carrying them all with you. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and drop the purple tail. I'm going to carry the white for one more. Okay, so now I'm going to drop the white tail and just leave it back here. Okay, I'm going to continue the rest of this off screen. You've seen all the color change situations in this pattern now, and I will be creating 15 rows in total. Okay, I have reached the end of how many rows I wanted on this pattern. So what I'm going to do now that I'm at the end here is I'm going to cut this color off here, and I'm going to leave my main color. I'm going to be creating a single crochet border going around this piece, and it'll really make it look a lot nicer. As I'm going along making the border, I'm going to be hiding any of the pieces that are on the end by weaving them into the border. I went ahead and I cut off any of the ends that I had already weaved in while working them into the project. So to make the single crochet border, we are just going to be putting a single crochet into every stitch going around. So mine will be 15 on each edge. I also like to chain 1 at each corner. So to start, let's chain 1. I'm going to mark the last stitch just so I know exactly where I left off. Now, putting single crochets into the sides is a little bit tricky. Basically, you just want to try to get 3 single crochets into each color here, or however big your square is, however many rows high it is, that's how many single crochets you're gonna put into the side of it there. And I basically just try to grab a loop wherever I can. So I'm just randomly kind of inserting into the side here. It doesn't have to really be a precise spot, but as long as I got 3 single crochets into each color, then I'll know that I'll have 15 stitches. So if we're looking at this next color here, I'm just kind of finding a loop to insert my hook into, and also I'm carrying this white so I can hide it. There we go. So that is how you single crochet into the side. Again, it doesn't matter too much where you insert on the side here. What really matters the most is just that you get enough stitches. So I have 15 stitches. When I get to the next corner, I'm going to chain one. I'm carrying both of these colors with me. And the ends are a lot easier because since we single crocheted into the back bump at the beginning, we have these nice V's here, so we know exactly where to insert our hook. These stitches might be really tight because it was our foundation chain. Now I'm just going to repeat the same thing on this side and the top, and just remember to chain one at the corners. After you crocheted into your last stitch, we are going to chain one, cut your yarn to fasten off, and then I'm going to pull this through. I'm putting my thread on my darning needle, and I personally like to do an invisible join because it gives it a lot cleaner of a finish than doing a slip stitch. If we look at the stitches here, this right here is the chain one that I started with. This is the first stitch. We are going to be going into the second stitch. Insert your needle going away from you and then pull it through. Then we're going to be going into the last loop right here before we pulled this one through. We're going to go into the back loop. So this is the back loop right back here. That's the back loop. This is the front loop. So we are going to insert into the back loop and then we're going to pull away from us again. And as you can see, that now looks just like a stitch on the side. So it's nice, clean finish. And then I'm going to go ahead and weave this into the back. I also like to tie a knot with it on the back just to make sure it's really secure. So insert it into anywhere and then hold this loop. Insert through this loop and then pull through to create a knot, and I'm just going to tighten this, and that just gives us some extra security, and then I'm just going to continue to weave this into the back. Once your end is secure, you can go ahead and cut it. And you can cut off all of these pieces that you weaved into the border. If there's any other yarn that you didn't weave into your project as you were working, you want to go ahead and secure those ends now and then cut them off. And there we go, our gingham granny square is complete. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed making this gingham granny square. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe to my channel and leave a like on the video. It really helps the channel out. I will see you next time. Bye!